you just mean like agency? You just mean like essentially? Do you just mean like conscious intentionality?
Yeah. I mean, I
It
wouldn't use
depends.
the word intentionality that way, but I get what you mean by it.
It ultimately like depends. Some people don't, or some religions don't really ascribe consciousness to God necessarily.
Okay, then I don't know what creation is supposed to mean here.
Like you don't know what Genesis means to like make
No.
the world.
No, I mean, first of all, the universe, usually when people say God creates the world, they mean he creates the universe, right? So if the universe is God, you'd have to be saying it creates itself, which I don't really understand what that claim is supposed to be saying, right?
You don't understand like the way that I could put this maybe is like the way that Anaxagoras says this is that at first there was like everything in one spot, and then it began to move. Maybe not in one spot, but at one point there was everything, but then everything moved, and then when everything started moving, it all started to clumping together in its elements.
What if things have always been moving? Does that mean that the universe isn't God?
No, it's literally that God is everything. It is the eternal, ever-fluxing, primordial movement.
Okay, so I'm still lost as to what it means to say the universe is God.
Why? Why are you lost on this?
Well, because my concept of God is that God, first of all, is a supernatural being and implies something outside of the universe, right? So I'm trying to understand what this alternative concept of God is, other than just, using the word God to pick out the universe.
But that's purely not even a Western. It's purely an Abrahamic doctrine to say that. No other religion does that.
I don't think that's true.
Tell me another religion that says that God is outside of his creation or is like separate from it, besides like the Abrahamic faith.
Most religions that believe in a creator God.
Yeah, but the creator God is always described as coming.
Usually, what it means to be a creator God is that you have a God that creates something that isn't itself.
No, okay, so I'll give like an example from like Tao Te Ching, right? First there was the Tao, and then the Tao made the one, and then the one made the two. This is like it's the same idea that goes along with all religions. It's that at first there's like a primordial void or chaos or flexingness, which isn't actually nothing. It's just pure like primordial energy, and then from that arises a one or a creator. The term that Plato uses for this is the demiurge, right? Which is probably what you're referring to when you talk about creator, a demiurge type figure. But the demiurge is not God. It is more of like an incarnation of God.
Okay, I'm still lost as to what God is supposed to be on this view, right?
Sure.
Like, all I'm really trying to do is to get clarity on what that means, right? That's it. I'm not really trying to have a debate about,
Yeah,
what
sure.
ancient religions.
It just literally means that God is everything, and then at some point.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Like, I don't understand what God means, right? So I ask you what God means. You say, well, it means God is everything. But what are you saying is everything? Like, what's the what do you
like totality? Like there's no way to
another
really.
word for everything.
Yes, there's no word that can ultimately be used to describe it. Ultimately,
reality is reality.
Okay,
Therefore,
I mean, it just sounds like if you can't describe it, just sounds like you have a vacuous concept.
I don't think it's vacuous though, because there's plenty of position that you can ultimately derive from this.
There's plenty of what to what.
I think that, for example, like in Hinduism, they take that idea that God is everything, that the God is the Brahman, and from that they're able to derive an entire code of ethics, an entire way of life from that. So I don't think it's completely vacuous. Like if you just mean vacuous as in like it ultimately has
I take it that Hindus believe in multiple different deities.
Yeah, but they're all just incarnations of Brahman.
Okay. But they're still so you could have an idea where you think that God is able to manifest itself in various different ways, right? And that might include manifesting as other gods, and that might include, this idea that God, the world is a manifestation of God, right? But if you say that the world is a manifestation of God, that's still saying that the world is something distinct from God's simpliciter, right? It's one manifestation of God.
Yeah, so then what is, when you take everything and you put it all together, what do you get?
I don't even understand the question.
So like you take every individual category and you put it all together. You get everything. You get every single thing within every single category. So therefore
Okay, and
it supersedes every category, but it's yet what all categories stem from,
okay, and
which means it's the source of everything.
well, no, that doesn't mean that.
Yes, it is. If it's the combinedness of every single category and it supersedes all categories, then how could it be anything except for that which like all categories come from?
When you say come from or source, maybe that implies some sort of causal or dependent. I mean, you might say that, like, you know, um, every category is in some sense part of the set of all categories. So if that's all you mean, okay. But what is that? What bearing does that have to do, or what bearing does that have on like whether God exists or what God is? I'm not getting it.
You don't understand the idea of the entire universe being done.
No, I've been trying to understand it for the last 5 minutes, and you haven't really illuminated it.
Is there anything outside of everything?
Presumably not.
Is there anything? Okay, so there's nothing outside of everything, right? So that means that everything is its own
Yeah,
cause.
presumably.
How could something cause everything
Okay.
if everything is everything?
All right. So the set of everything isn't caused. All right. Where are we going from there?
I'm saying that if there is nothing outside of it, then it is its own reason for existence, or like it is essentially, it is just what it is.
And what does that have to do with God, though?
Well, what definition would we essentially usually ascribe to being God? In the Western world, it is the creator, but within like the Eastern world, that which is usually ascribed to God is the substance or the everythingness from which individual objects come from. So what God
I
merely
mean, I don't.
is just the universal substance or energy upon which other things come from.
I mean, I don't really believe any of the things you're saying about Eastern theology, but like, again, my concept of God, right, is not just another word for everything, right?
Yeah, I'm saying that
Because
you purely have a
typically
Western
God
perception
is,
on it.
yeah, it's not even no.
Yes, you
Whatever
do.
you want to call it, Western or whatever, I don't care, right? I'm telling you what my concept is, right? And now, if you have another concept, that's fine. I want to understand that, but it seems like all this other concept is just another word for everything, right? And if it's just another word for everything, I don't take it to have any of the particular significance that my concept of God has.
So this idea that ultimately there's this underlying everythingness or allness doesn't make any sense to you?
No, that well, all no, well, no, that sounds like gibberish to me. Yeah,
Sure. So what created the world?
I don't think the world was created.
Why not?
Well, I mean, the primary reason is because I think if you're trying to have, an ontology, a theory of what exists, right? The theory that accounts for everything you want to explain, with the least posits, right? The simplest theory that accounts for everything you want to explain is one that says that the universe isn't created.
Is there something outside of the universe?
No,
So
not in my view.
it's self-contained, right? The universe is self-contained.
Sure.
How does it perpetuate itself?
Well, there are material processes that are the result of the properties of the material objects that make up the universe.
So would you say that in order for a flower to bloom, another one has to die, and then those nutrients are then used for the creation of new flowers?
I mean, I'm not really sure I know much about flower biology, but
Dude, do you see flowers die, turn into dirt, and then from other dirt, new flowers come?
in some sense,
Like a yes or no. I don't want like
That's
this in some
straightforward,
sense.
but-
Like, do flowers come from that which is like dead?
Well, no, I
Like,
think like part of what you're doing is like a poetic oversimplification, right? So I don't necessarily like. There's a way in which I can agree to what you're saying, but like probably not too literally.
I would say no.
Hello?
Just agree with him, Piper.
Oh, I would say no.
What
not
do
sure
you
what I'm
think
doing.
of the
Agree.
spaghetti
It
god?
smells like chicken poop instead of another flower. Bat guano.
I pray to a guy that like he's made out of spaghetti, right? And he lives in the clouds, and he tells me how to live my
Someone mute
life.
this person.
He's like made out of
Nobody
spaghetti,
knows.
and he lives in the clouds, and he
Thank you.
And he shuts you up, which is why he's worthy of worship.
I think he really had a strong point.
My sincerest apologies. He was blaspheming. He was blaspheming the teapot.
I had a phone call. But basically, all that I was trying to essentially get at is this idea that the way that the reason as to why a universe can be conceived of as the creator essentially is because it creates itself by devouring its own self.
Yeah, that just sounds like a bunch of poetic stuff.
Well, is the world not ultimately cyclical, and do like things not die, and then from out of that which decays, like new life blooms out of it? Like, is it ultimately not this like self-contained like loop?
No, I think that's like a poetic oversimplification.
Got it. So the universe isn't a loop, right? Like it isn't like a cyclical thing.
Well, it sort of depends, right? If cyclical cosmology is the right model, then yeah, it is. But if it's not, then it's not. I mean,
That's just a nothing burger.
well, no, it's not, right? So I'm saying the answer to the question depends on like what the best scientific theory is going to be, right? And not like the poetic, like overly simplified stuff that you're saying.
What?
So if cycles
This guy's
existing
such
implies
garbage.
hold on, if cycles
very
existing implies God exists, then does bicycles existing implies there's two gods, and tricycles imply there's three gods, and so on?
That's not what I'm saying at all. Why are you making that this odd like equivocation?
I'm just trying to
That
understand the
wasn't an
model.
equivocation.
He's trying to equivocate like cycles of nature. It's like an actual bicycle.
That's not what equivocate means.
Yes, it is. He's trying to use two of the same.
No,
Yes, it is. Why is
no,
it not?
you're confusing equivocate and equate.
Let me Google it. 1 second.
This guy's such garbage, I'm not gonna lie.
In logic, equivocation, calling two different things by the same name, is an inferral fallacy resulting from the use of a particular word/expression in multiple senses within an argument.
Right. Which is not equating things. They're different.
Is that it? Was that the end of the conversation?
I guess. You have something to contribute, Matt?
I just think that him claiming that the universe is God just is meaningless. Doesn't really do anything.